I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Meltdown is the new movie, but that's only one of the things that you have going on. When did you finish Meltdown?
The shooting was finished in 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, took a long time to edit.
Wow. Was the editing the hardest part of it all, or is it more the distribution part?
Well, both. I don't do the editing and I don't do the distribution. So, I didn't have anything to do with those things, but it did go through about 4 different edits. And at one point it had about 3 or 4 endings. So it was good to wait to get it to have one ending.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like the film was actually the story, I should say, came out in the editing room as opposed to it all being scripted when you had the idea for the film.
No script at all.
No script.
No script. I mean, he did make a storyboard of the different places to shoot, and he shot here at our home in the Hudson Valley, and in the different buildings, and then he shot with Tony at Yale. So there was different things, but it wasn't like pre-arranged. It kind of, I think it kind of organically came because we didn't all know each other or what we were really all thinking. But Frederick listened and I think created it out of after he had met us, what it could look like. And then of course, Ilulissat was a complete unknown to him. Complete. So when he got there, but he's a very voracious guy and he went, got the people and met people. And so that's how it was more than as a scripted project.
That's pretty unique. A documentary that's not staged these days. It's almost like a negative.
I know. Well, maybe it is a negative, but this was not staged. It really was organic.
And your work, for people who are followers of your photography for decades, is organic. That's one word I'd absolutely use to describe what it is that you do. So that is intended to be a compliment, nothing backhanded to that kind of thing. The film world, was it always something that you wanted to be in?
No, as a matter of fact, my husband, Rudy Wurlitzer, has been in the film world since he wrote Two-Lane Blacktop back in the 60s or early 70s. So we've been together quite a long time. I've been in that world on films. I've gone on the location trips. I've been on sets for various of the films, from Bertolucci to Al Cox to Volker Schlondorf. I'm not really a storyteller, as it turns out. I'm more an image person. And so no, I never, also I didn't want to spend my life raising money.
Yeah, that is a banking centric field. But an interesting thing about you and Rudy both, and credit goes to Rudy for working with Robert Downey Sr., because people don't always realize that there is a Robert Downey Sr. It didn't just start with Robert Downey Jr. Both of you have found a way to be creative for a living, but in a very artistic kind of way. And Meltdown is kind of looking at how art and science can coexist. You guys have found a way to make art and business coexist in a tasteful way. Has that connection ever come to mind?
Yes, and in fact, Rudy in particular, he would write a movie and then go off and write a book. And he, alternated them, most of his life.
Yeah.
And for myself, starting out as a photojournalist, making, earning a living that way. Then when I went into the art world, that was more of a gamble, because there wasn't kind of any going back, although I always took any jobs that were offered, even after I was in the art world, just to, until I didn't need to anymore.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, we talk about that and the great luck of having that happen. Of course, watching Rudy as the writer on screenplays all the years, that is not easy.
Right.
That is a tough job. But yes, we managed to survive it, and but there's a certain amount of luck in that too. There's so many other people, that it didn't work out that way.
When you overly think about entertainment and art like I do more than the average person, you kind of realize that whether it's a song, a photograph, a movie, it's pulling something out of nothing. It's almost like a magic trick to create something and go, here's a product, enjoy. But you've always seemed to make choices that you would never regret later on. For example, I don't know of any of your work that you would be embarrassed about decades later.
Well, what a nice thing to say. That's, it's a funny thing, but when I got to New York from San Francisco in the early 70s, something happened. I kind of hit my stride. I don't know how to say it any other way. I always say something linked up with my ability, my mind, my desire, and the drive to work hard. And they became like, a braid, like tapestry. And so I always tried to pick each project came out of the one before it. The way I was lucky is I always had light luck, what I call light luck.
Yeah.
And going all these places all over the world, I managed to get a group of pictures, have a show, have it sell enough to move on. So do I regret if I have, let's put it this way. I still have the pictures from 35 years ago around, and I look at them and I'm not embarrassed. So that's pretty good, right?
That says a lot. And going back to Meltdown, there's the audience that would naturally find it, people that love science and climate change and documentaries. And then there's that extra layer of people that go, whoa, executive producer of The Last Dance. When did you realize that The Last Dance was this big deal and would kind of be a marketing point to a new audience on this film?
Well, what's so funny is I'm actually a big sports fan. And so when I met Michael Tollin from, Mandalay Media, we had a lot in common just in terms of sports and things. And I hadn't really seen, I was like, how is this going to work out? The films he's done don't seem to have anything to do with the art world or my world. But the guy's very interesting. He's got a big mind, and he kind of he just kind of put it together. And I hope when people see it that it does manage to merge the two, and yet each is a separate entity coming together. And I think maybe that's adds a little extra interest. I don't know. What do you think?
I think there's a lot of things I can respond to from that statement. First is that when The Last Dance came out, that was at the beginning of COVID. And that was before anyone obviously had any idea this might be the case 9, 10, 11 months from now. And I would say that or Tiger King, one of those two was the first viral thing of COVID. And it was so successful now that people are copying that exact thing and going, well, it's like The Last Dance, but, in other words, when you become one of those genre pieces, it's like Blade Runner, but that kind of happened.
It was pretty great. But also The Last Dance, talk about perfect timing. When all of us were starved to see something, and then we see the greatest. And he's up to it, and he's on it, and he's there, present, not in camouflage. I mean, I thought it was terrific. It's not
Absolutely.
It's not easy for one guy to hold a whole series like that, but he was well able to do that.
Yes, and it's also amazing how much we didn't know before all that happened. Somebody's one of the most famous athletes in history, and we still didn't see the footage of him and Jerry Seinfeld, the footage of the song by Prince, etc. But back to you here, because we're talking to you. We're not talking to The Last Dance, the embodiment of The Last Dance.
Okay.
You said that the photography was wrapped in 2016, like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. What else do you have coming up that we might be able to see within the next few years?
Well, this is the thing. As you can tell, from my bio, my age, I've done a lot of things. And it's like in the film when I talk about the portrait work I did early on in the nude work, and then that ended. we'll talk about this last 30 years ending with, since 9/11 and COVID, the world is a different place. And I'm different because of it. And so the aspect of the, looking at the natural and man-made landscape all over the world and trying to, reinterpret it, to people that want to see it afresh. But that's over now. It's over.
Yeah.
So during, obviously, sitting in my house where I'm sitting now, like you are in yours, I don't know, I've been sitting here for a year. So there's plenty of time to think about what would be the next step now. What would I want to do? And to be really, really honest, I'm looking at projects now that interweave my work in different ways. Like I'm working on a book now on the circle, the square, and the triangle in architectural history, from the earliest work in the pyramids up to modern architecture. So I'm going through the archive and kind of reimagining different kinds of exhibitions, different kinds of books that can give somebody a journey through time that I've taken. As to what I'm going to do when I get my second vaccine, you'll have to, call me back. I'm not sure yet.
Well, there's a certain level of intellect that goes through all of your work. And one thing I'm curious about is when people who do really smart things, and I'm the one calling you smart, you're not going around telling people
I'm smart.
But I'm saying that what you're doing is definitely intellectually stimulating and oriented. Do you like any culture that's dumb, or like, for example, do you love the band Kiss? Is there anything like, oh, I love every Van Halen album. Is there anything like that about you?
Probably when it comes to rock and roll, I'm a real rock and roller. I mean, I came of age in sort of the late 50s with Rock Around the Clock, and then into Elvis, and Jerry Lee Lewis and Chuck Berry. I love the blues. I'm of that time. What do I like that's really, well, oddly enough, it's not so much that, but I'm a huge fan of Malian music and African music. I did a project there. And in every country, I went to 11 countries. In every country, I go to the record store, hang out with the guys. They were mainly guys, but that's not a sexist thing. That's just all that was there. And I listened to their music. And so the African music is a big passion of mine. I have a huge collection. And it's probably, for me, I don't know. It's the way they play the guitar. It's like being on the road. And I was on the road. I've been on the road so much of my life alone. That music really appeals to me. It's my road music.
With going with that guilty pleasure question, I would say 1 in every 5 times I ask somebody that kind of thing, they'll go, I love MMA. I watch every UFC pay-per-view. And I didn't know if I was just about to break through with Lynn Davis being a huge MMA fan, but it's totally normal that you're not.
I'll have to think about that, though. I don't know what is the strangest thing. I'm pretty normal when it comes to music, and I do love world music.
Great taste. Well,
it isn't that strange, though.
Oh, it's so strange that you're open-minded. Oh, yeah. Poor Lynn. Yeah. Well, my last question to you, it could be as simple as go to my website, or it could be actual advice. And that's any last words for the kids?
Oh, God, the kids. I thought so much about all the kids during this pandemic and how they, not only do they not to get to travel, they don't even get to leave their house. It's going into their imagination. And then when this is over, take some risks, go someplace, go see something else, go see the other, go to India, go a place that's totally unlike this one, so that your only criteria for all things isn't just where you live now. And of course, kids were doing that for the last years. But right now, the kids really need, I think, some urging after they've been locked in their bedrooms with their computers. It's like, let's get out, let's move as soon as we can.
Well said. Even if it means go to the record stores in Africa, just try new stuff.
Try new stuff.
Exactly. Well, I really look forward to what's coming next from you. Congratulations on Meltdown getting released. Long time in the works, and just keep up all the great work that you do. And please, the husband, send our best to him as well.
Okay. And thank you very much. And it was nice to meet you.
Paltrocast.